A man's mission is rarely just about what he's building. It's about what he's repairing. The absent father, the critical father, the abusive father, they all leave a void that becomes the engine of ambition. This is the engine of my ambition. So how dare I be upset at the man who gave me the fuel that lights my fire, that has created all the success in my world. We tell ourselves we're chasing success, but often we're just chasing validation from a man who may never give it. The greatest achievers that I admire, Dame Dash, Mike Tyson, Kobe Bryant, Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, they have a secret. They weren't just driven solely by their passion. It's a secret that I've always known. I never like sharing it with people because I too can see someone that is broken. And part of being broken comes from coming from a household that's broken. And I know that those guys I named, they're all driven by the need to prove that they were worth showing up for. And sometimes the man that you want to show up for you most doesn't show up. So you raise hell and you conquer so much land that you hope that at some point you can stand at the highest mountain and that man can see you. And until that man realizes this, and that man is you, you're building a momentum and you're chasing a ghost. You have to realize that chasing that ghost is not worth it. Just stop chasing the ghost and start doing it for yourself. Let it go and start moving forward. Because whatever blessings are forward are probably gonna come from the ghosts that haunt you from your past.
That's crazy perspective right there, bro. I love it.
I wrote that during the pandemic. You didn't know I was gonna do that to you. You didn't know.
You almost left me speechless. Man, you know what that reminded me of? Like, and I think you touched on it a bit. I think everyone always loves a sort of redemption story. And for a long time, bro, growing up, I really felt like my father was sort of gonna come to his senses. And he did resurface when I was like 18, 19, and I was going to college. And I was excited because I'm like, damn, because he specifically asked for me. He was in town, he was at my aunt's house, and he called my mom and he said, hey, I want to see Rich. Can you have him come over? And it was a couple blocks away. And I was excited. I was like, man, I think this is a redemption story where my father's just going to admit his faults and, you know, explain why he was absent for most of my life.
You're holding that coal.
I was holding that coal, yeah. And I was so ready to forgive him, bro. I was like, no, this is great. He'll be involved in the second half of my life. This is going to be wonderful, right? So I get to my aunt's house and maybe 5 minutes into the conversation, he goes, hey, tell me the truth. How many girls are you sleeping with now? And my heart just sunk to my stomach because I was like, damn, bro. Not like, how's college going? How's your health? How's the family? How are you feeling? How's life been? Like, you're worried about my body count? Like, how many girls I'm sleeping with? In Spanish, it's called sinvergüenza, bro. It's like, that was his way of deflecting an uncomfortable conversation with humor and maybe a little bit of comedy and sinvergüencería, but like, it didn't land, bro. And that moment, I just remember registering it like, damn, bro, this dude's never gonna change, bro.
I've never seen your father, Rich, and I'm curious because for those that know and are from the Northeast or Caribbean, typically Dominicans, not all of them, obviously, Latinos, we're all fucking, we come in all shades, but usually darker skinned. You don't look like the average Dominican. Did you come out looking like your mom or your dad? Because I feel like he was a pretty boy, and that's why he asked you that question, because a lot of his identity probably comes from being like a fly guy.
Yes, bro. He gave me his email one time and it was like Gigolo Bigelow 69 at Yahoo. I was like, nah,
You're
this
lying,
guy's just
bro.
wallet. I swear to God. I wish I was lying.
If you want to email Rich's father, email him at my fucking gigolo, little meal at hotmail.com.
At Hotmail, yeah, the Hotmail. Bro, I wish I was joking, Just. I wish I was joking, bro.
Wow. So he's a pretty,
yeah,
he's a pretty guy. He just had, did he have your features or you got your mom's features?
Yeah. Well, I mean, a little bit of both, but yeah, just like young, handsome guy. He was in the military back in the Dominican Republic. So anybody in any sort of like law enforcement was really sought after back in the 70s and 80s. So he was a pretty boy, you know, and he very, very much liked women, and that was what he was into, and that was what he felt was important to him, what made him a man. So I think he tried to connect with me on that level, and I think at 19 years old he thought like, oh, this is a conversation that I can have with my son. What he failed to realize is like, bro, we're not even there yet. Like, we don't have a relationship. How do you think I'm gonna feel comfortable talking to you about something that personal?
Crazy. Nah, he's wild, bro.
He's wild.
By the way, he's insanely immature. Absolutely. That's crazy.
Absolutely.
All right, listen, I want you to finish your point because I do want to get to the portion of like the community and what they had to say, and I want to give these guys some advice.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna end it with, that was the last time I ever spoke to my father. and I'm 37 years old.
Wow. Wait,
Yeah.
how many years has it been?
17, 18.
So wait, that brings me to, by the way, we're not gonna get into actionable advice on this episode, even though we typically try to do that on every episode to give our community something tangible to walk away with that they can start practicing today. But I think, Rich, we could just speak on our personal situations. We should speak on what the community had to say. And I do want to get into some actual research from a few research papers from credible sources that I was able to pull on what is the most typical things that come out of young men that go through these situations, and we can kind of speak to some solutions there. But the one thing you made me think of was the hot coal. We keep using this phrase, right? What was it about that last conversation that allowed you to, I don't know, are you forgiving him when you release the coal, or are you forgiving yourself? Unpack that a little bit and I guess contextualize it in a way for like a younger guy that's listening that may still carry that resentment and hope that their father could see them and approve of them or anything like that.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think for a long time, I felt like, exactly what you said earlier, where I felt like I wanted that validation. I seek that acceptance from him and that like, hey, do you care, right, from him. And it wasn't until that conversation with him when I was 19 years old that I realized, well, wait a minute, this man is never going to change. Like, he is who he is. Like, if we're going to give him kudos about anything, is that, man, this man is consistently him. You know what I mean? Like, he's just consistently one way. So that was such a pivotal moment where it made me realize, like, bro, he's not going to change. The one that needs to change is me. I need to reframe the way I view this relationship, the way I view this man. And ultimately, yes, I did come to a place of acceptance and forgiveness. The way I framed it in my head, bro, is like, I almost thought of it as like a mental illness. He was immature. He wasn't ready to be a father. He doesn't know the personality and characteristics and tenacity that it takes to be a father. Just because you put your seed in a woman and that woman births a child doesn't make you a father. You have to know how to be a father, be present, contribute in that child's life. There was a lot of things that he was missing. And for me to try to hope that he would eventually get there was like false hope. I had to reframe how I viewed him as a person and how I healed that wound that was, that father wound.
That summary is great, Rich. And I relate to that one a lot because even though my father was very much around when I was pre-14, at 14, him and my mom broke up. That's one thing that I learned in my 30s and definitely during the pandemic. That was huge for me because I had enough time to think about it. I had enough time as an adult to hang out with my father as an adult. And I started seeing a lot of this arrested development. Is probably the best way that I could put it. Unfortunate for him, but fortunate for me, the way this evolution shit works is like the picture of the ape that is in its most primitive form, and it eventually evolves into a man, someone standing upright, shoulders back, walking on 2 feet. And I think that's just a natural progression for families that come from lower income areas, or families that come from immigrant families, or families that were honestly fucked up by drugs or anything that stumped the evolution and the growth of our last name. And anybody watching this, your last name. Part of the letting go of the coal that was burning my hand, which was the validation I wanted from my father, was realizing, man, I should only judge him based on the resources, information, and education that he had growing up in New York, in New Jersey, in the 70s. He didn't have all the information I had. I might be able to argue that he put me in a position to be the man I am today, but he wasn't around to teach me what I was able to learn. Maybe that's me coping with my situation, but it helped me look at him in a different light and almost see him as a young man and less as my father. I almost saw him like the way my grandmother would see him versus the way I saw him as a dad. And even to this day, it helps me understand the relationship that I have with my father, because it's like certain subjects he's gonna thrive in and he's gonna lead me as a parent would. And then certain subjects, it's fucked up to say, but it's part of maturing. You develop an education beyond the guy who gave birth to you. So you just forgive them for it. You're just like, oh, you don't even understand what I'm talking about, and that's okay. And I think that courtesy is part of how I've gotten to develop a better relationship with my idea of my father. Because sorry to be long-winded, Rich, but to me, the goal isn't to hate your father. It's to become the man he never taught you to be. I just decided I need to stop wasting valuable energy fighting old demons. And I just started building from a clean page, you know, like a dry erase board. I just erased everything and I'm creating a new legacy, something that I'm proud of. And, you know, what's the alternative? I got to live in my past and then pass those wounds forward to my children, to my future son. I can't imagine that. So the best thing for me to do was just give it a clean slate and start fresh. And for those that don't know, that's why I love the name Justin Duran, because I'm 2 times my last name, because I believe that I can do 2 times more for my family in my last name than anyone who came before me was able to do. And, you know, that's a product of my situation, the fortunate situation I was put in.